Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast that takes, those really dense academic papers and makes them surprisingly interesting. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
We've noticed a lot of you are tuning in, which is amazing, but I haven't quite hit that subscribe button yet.
Yeah, and that little button, honestly, it's so small, but it makes such a huge difference in helping us reach more people with these important discussions.
Right. It's true. Like the algorithms, those mysterious forces that decide what we all see and hear, they pay a lot of attention to subscriber numbers.
Yeah, think of it like the subscribing. It's like casting a vote for quality content, So these insightful research discussions don't just get lost in the sea of all the information out there.
More subscribers equals more visibility. Right. And that means more resources for us to make even deeper dives for you.
Yeah.
Maybe bring in experts for interviews, even do some live Q&A sessions where you can jump in.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about building a community around research,
Yeah.
where curiosity thrives and knowledge is like shared and debated.
So you sent in this article, The New Challenges of Brand Management, from MIT Sloan Management Review. And I got to say, it really got me thinking.
Yeah.
About how brands have evolved. From just being simple labels to these huge, cultural forces that shape so much of our lives.
It's true.
And we're going to dive deep into that today. How did this happen, right? How did we get from a little logo on a product to a brand representing entire belief systems or lifestyle?
It is a wild ride. Yeah.
It is so, whether you're a marketing pro or you just want to understand why you reach for that specific coffee every morning.
Right.
Get ready, because this deep dive is going to be full of those aha moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will be surprised to see how much things have actually changed over the years.
Oh, yeah, totally. So let's rewind all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Before marketing was a thing, before social media even existed. What was the deal with brands back then?
Well, imagine you're in a marketplace centuries ago, right? There are tons of merchants all selling similar goods.
Yeah.
They needed a way to stand out, to tell people hey, my stuff's the best.
Right.
So that's really where trademarks were born, simple marks to show ownership.
To say this is mine.
Exactly. This is what you can expect from me. So it was all about recognition and, creating a sense of trust.
So basically an artist signing their masterpiece.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when did it become official, legally protected?
That started happening in the late 1800s.
Okay.
When governments started to see the power of these marks and, started offering legal protection for them. Like a British brewery basin company. They were the first to register their trademark in 1876.
Wow, the first ever.
Yeah, pretty groundbreaking. And then 9 years later, Coca-Cola followed suit.
So those were the pioneers?
Totally. This was a huge shift because it basically marked the birth of the legal mark.
Right.
It wasn't just a symbol anymore. It was a legal entity.
Okay, so we've got these marks right.
Yeah.
But how did they go from just being this is my product to something that consumers actually started to trust and rely on?
Well, think about it. Back then, you couldn't just hop online and read reviews.
Yeah, true.
So brands had to earn that trust the old-fashioned way.
Right.
By consistently delivering quality products and services over time.
Okay.
And, when they did that consistently, those brands became mental shortcuts for consumers.
You knew what you were getting.
Exactly. You could skip all the guesswork and just trust that a particular mark meant you were getting something good.
Like that old saying, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM.
That's a perfect example.
Right. It just meant this brand is reliable.
Yeah.
You're safe with this choice.
Yeah, it totally minimized risk for consumers.
Okay, so trust was the foundation.
Exactly.
But then things started to change, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s were a turning point.
It's brands suddenly went from practical to aspirational.
It was the era of conspicuous consumption, remember?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't just about what a product did anymore, but what it said about you.
Right.
Your status, your lifestyle.
Enter the yuppies.
Exactly. Those young urban professionals who were all about flaunting their success with the right brands.
Oh, yeah, and those iconic 80s ad campaigns. Grey Poupon mustard with that, pardon me, snob appeal.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And who could forget American Express? Don't leave home without it. Pure status anxiety in like 4 words.
Right. It's brilliant marketing.
Yeah, it feels like that's when like lifestyle marketing really exploded.
Absolutely. They weren't selling products anymore. They were selling an image, a feeling of belonging to a certain group. Like even Apple's legendary 1984 ad, it didn't even show the product.
I remember that.
It was all about emotion rebellion, anti-conformity.
Wait, wasn't it around this time that like marketing research started showing that emotions are actually more powerful than logic when it comes to selling?
You're exactly right. They found that emotional marketing actually trumps rational appeals.
Interesting.
So brands were no longer just trusted friends, they were becoming objects of desire. It was the birth of what Kevin Roberts called love marks.
Love marks.
Yeah.
So brands went from just reducing uncertainty to promising to make us cooler, more stylish.
More everything, yeah.
It's like they were tapping into our deepest desires and aspirations.
Exactly. And that's when things got really interesting because then social media came along.
And boom, everything changed again.
Yeah, the whole game shifted. Social media was like a whole new playing field. It really took everything to another level.
Right.
It turned brands into like identity marks.
Like entity marks.
Yeah, now the brands we choose, they're not just about the product itself. You know, they're like public statements about who we are, what we believe in, what groups we belong to.
Whoa, that's deep. It's like before a brand was something you bought, but now it's something you become.
Exactly. Every share, every review, it's all adding to this like self-portrait we're creating online.
It's like we're curating our own personal brand through the brands we choose.
And brands are really trying to figure out how to be part of that picture.
Okay, so like think about it, checking in at that trendy vegan restaurant.
Right.
Or wearing that Patagonia jacket. It's like you're sending a message to everyone. This is who I am. These are my values.
And it's created this whole new set of challenges for brands because now, like choosing Chick-fil-A or Ben & Jerry's,
Ooh, yeah.
it's not just about which one tastes better. It's about aligning yourself with a whole set of values.
Right. It's almost like you're taking sides.
Yeah, and it can even feel like you're stepping into the political arena with every purchase.
Okay, but is that really fair to brands, though? Like, should every purchase be a political statement?
It's a tough question for sure, and consumers are definitely demanding more from brands than ever before. They want to see that the brands they support are authentic, transparent, actually committed to the causes they claim to support.
Right, like it's not enough to just like slap a rainbow on your logo during Pride Month anymore.
Exactly. Consumers want to see real action, genuine commitment. But as we've seen, with some recent controversies, getting it wrong can really backfire.
The Bud Light situation is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
They partnered with a transgender influencer, and it sparked like huge boycotts and tons of outrage.
Yeah, it shows just how sensitive things are right now.
It's like brands are walking a tightrope.
Totally. One wrong step, and you risk alienating a big chunk of your customer base.
So brands can't just stay silent anymore. They have to take a stand, even if it means upsetting some people.
It's more about really understanding your audience, and aligning your brand with their values in a way that feels authentic and genuine.
Okay.
And this brings up an interesting idea from sociology called collective effervescence.
Collective what? Okay. You're going to have to explain that one.
So think about that feeling you get at a concert or a sporting event, when everyone's singing and cheering together.
Yeah, like you're all connected.
Exactly. It's like this shared emotional high, this feeling of unity and belonging.
Okay, I get it.
That's collective effervescence. And brands are starting to tap into that by creating communities around shared values.
So it's not just about the product itself. It's about being part of something bigger.
Right. When you buy a certain product, you're not just getting the product. You're joining a tribe of like-minded people.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is. It's about tapping into that fundamental human need for connection and belonging.
So we've gone from reducing uncertainty to aspirational marketing, and now it's all about belonging.
The goalposts have definitely moved, and marketers have had to up their game.
It's like the power dynamic has completely shifted, right?
It has. The power has shifted from the brand to the consumer. Because today's consumers are more informed, more connected, and they're way more vocal than ever before.
Right.
And they're demanding that brands step up and reflect their values.
I'm seeing a pattern here. As brands evolve, the stakes get higher.
Yeah.
It went from, will this product work, to, will this brand make me look cool? And now it's like, does this brand reflect who I am and what I believe in?
You nailed it. And that requires a whole new approach to marketing.
What do you mean?
One that's less about broadcasting messages and more about listening, engaging, and building real connections.
So instead of telling consumers what to think, brands need to figure out what consumers already believe.
Right, and then find authentic ways to align with those beliefs.
That sounds like a pretty tall order.
It definitely is. Marketers need to become like cultural anthropologists, studying the values and beliefs that drive consumer behavior.
Wow.
They have to be brave enough to engage in the social conversation,
Right.
but also smart enough to understand all the nuances and complexities of the cultural moment.
Okay, so like Nike's done a pretty good job of this, right? Like with their Find Your Greatness and Dream Crazy campaigns with Colin Kaepernick.
Those were definitely statements.
They were taking a stand.
They were a calculated risk for sure, but ultimately they paid off because Nike knew their target audience really well and they weren't afraid to alienate people who didn't share those values.
It was a bold move.
But it really solidified their position as a brand that stands for something.
But even Nike can stumble, right?
Oh, of course.
Like their winning isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
Campaign during the Paris Olympics felt a little off,
Yeah, a bit toned down.
especially during the Olympics, which are all about like collaboration and sportsmanship.
Right. It highlights the importance of context and timing. What might resonate with one audience at a certain time might totally fall flat with another.
So it's all about reading the room.
It really is. It's a constantly shifting landscape, but when brands get it right,
Yeah.
when they authentically connect with a strong belief system, it can be incredibly powerful.
Like Liquid Death, for example.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're selling water, but they built this whole brand around sustainability and rebellion.
It's genius.
Right. They've tapped into this desire for like an eco-conscious punk rock lifestyle.
And it's working. Their valuation hit $1.2 billion in just 5 years.
Wow.
That shows you the power of authentically connecting with consumers through shared values.
It's like consumers are voting with their wallets. They're choosing brands that reflect their values and make a difference.
Absolutely. And it all goes back to that idea of identity.
Right.
We want the brands we support to represent who we are and what we believe in.
This whole journey from trademarks to identity marks is mind-blowing.
It really is. And it makes you realize just how much power we have as consumers.
Right. Like we're not just passive consumers anymore.
We're active participants in shaping the meaning of brands.
Yeah. It really makes you think about all those brands we interact with every day.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly surrounded by them.
We are. And it's not just about buying a product anymore. It's like
No.
we're building our own personal brand through the brands we choose.
Yeah. Like we're curating this image of ourselves.
Exactly. Every interaction we have with a brand, whether we're buying something or liking a post or even complaining about their service, it all adds to our own personal brand narrative.
So it's like a two-way street, right?
Totally. Brands are trying to figure out who we are, and we're using brands to show the world who we are.
It's a pretty fascinating dance.
It really is. And it makes you think about the messages those brands are sending, both to ourselves and to the world.
Right. Like, what am I saying about myself when I choose this brand over that one?
Exactly. What values are we aligning ourselves with? What stories are we telling through our brand choices?
Okay, so like next time I'm at the store, I'm not just going to grab the first thing I see. I'm going to like pause and think, what does this brand stand for? Does it align with my values?
I think that's a great takeaway from this whole conversation.
Right. It's like grocery shopping just got a whole lot deeper.
It's about being a more conscious consumer.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the power of brands and using that power to shape the world we want to live in.
This has been an incredible journey, from those simple little trademarks to these complex identity marks.
It's amazing how much things have changed.
Right. And it's crazy to think about how much power we have as consumers in shaping what those brands mean.
We've gone from passively receiving marketing messages to actively participating in the brand story.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with this thought. As you go back out into the world surrounded by all those logos and slogans,
Yeah.
take a moment to consider, what beliefs do the brands you support stand for? And how do those brands in turn reflect who you are in the world?
It's a great question and definitely something to think about.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.